Hi there, Smart Driver. Talking to you today about frequently asked questions to pass your driver's test. Those questions that students ask over and over again, creating some sort of doubt in their mind about whether they're going to pass or fail. So we're going to give you all the information you need to be successful to pass first time. The number one mistake that people make on a driver's test is not shoulder checking. And people will come back to me and say, oh, you can adjust your mirrors and you don't have blind areas and those types of things. That's all horse pucky. It's all horse pucky, okay? It's people with opinions that are wrong. I'm going to say it flat out. You have to shoulder check. And the reason that you have to shoulder check and the reason that we advocate it is ABS. Always be scanning when driving. Traffic is dynamic. It is always changing. And you need to be looking, seeing, and making sure that you have enough space between your vehicle and other traffic on the roadway so that you can read traffic patterns, interpret the actions of individual road users, and respond accordingly. Space buys you time. Time buys you options. Options prevent crashes. Good stuff to have a look at. You failed your driver's test. You're beating yourself up. Definitely have a look at that video. That will give you some motivation and inspiration to regroup. Look at the feedback that you got from the driving examiner about your unsuccessful attempt on your driving test. Book another driving test as soon as possible. When you get out of the car and the driving examiner says to you that you did not pass your driver's test, go back into the test center and rebook another test ASAP. Do not wait. Do not perseverate about it. Like, don't sit at home chewing your fingernails and beating yourself up and telling yourself that you're a loser and all the rest of it. Don't do any of that. Just regroup. Say to yourself, I didn't get it. Carry on with your life. Corey's put up the video there in the comments. And then look at the podcast, Pass My Driver's Test First Time. You can find that over at the website, and I'll be sure on the replay to put that down in the comments. So have a look there for that. Turns too wide. My turns are too wide. Go back to the parking lot and do the slow speed maneuvers. This is exactly what I was talking to you about in terms of slow speed maneuvers, doing your backing into a parking space, doing your 3-point turns, and doing your parallel parking. Do this first. If you do those slow speed maneuvers first, that will correct your turns that are too wide and get you to have mastery of the primary controls, mastery of the steering wheel, mastery of the gas pedal, and mastery of the brake pedal. So do that. That will fix that. The reason that you go into the parking lot and do your slow speed maneuvers there is because, as it says there on the slide, it allows you to focus on just driving the car. You don't have to worry about other traffic and responding accordingly to what's going on in the driving environment. You can just focus on working on the car and getting a sense of what the car is doing as you're driving around in the parking lot. And as I said, this work in the parking lot is not sexy. No, it's not. But it translates into all other aspects of your driving and will fix your wide turns when you're out on the roadways. Steering wheel control, slow speed maneuvers in the parking lot. Again, when students ask me, when a smart driver asks me, how much do I turn the steering wheel to go around a corner? You have no business being on the roadway. You are not ready. That should be something that you do unconsciously, that you should just be able to turn the steering wheel as much as is needed to go around the corner. I can give you some general guidelines, and Corey's put up the videos on how to steer a car and driving lessons for beginners. Excellent videos. Have a look at all of that information. But if you're asking how much you should turn the steering wheel to go around a corner, you shouldn't be out on the roadway. You should be in a parking lot figuring that out about how much to turn the steering wheel. I will tell you that steering wheels turn 1.5 revolutions each way. So from straight, when your steer tires are straight, for full right, my right, your left, you have to turn the steering wheel 1 turn and then 1/2 turn, and that is the maximum that your vehicle will turn. Every vehicle is the same. The frequently asked question that I get for new drivers is, can I let the steering wheel slide back through my hands after you complete the turn? Yes, you can, but you must keep the palms of your hands in contact with the steering wheel. You cannot just let go of the steering wheel and let it spin back. All right. You must have due care and control of the vehicle. And that means having control of the steering wheel. So you must keep your palms in contact with the steering wheel. Merging on freeways. This is no end of grief for new drivers, especially if traffic gets busy. How do I merge when traffic is bumper to bumper? You have to signal early that you are coming out on the highways to get the attention of other drivers. I cannot say this enough. You need 3 flashes minimum on the signal before you move the vehicle. The first flash is to get the other driver's attention. The second flash is to help them locate you. And the third flash allows the other drivers to do something to help you out. Either they back off and create space, or they speed up and they create space and get out of your way. That's what you need to do. As you're coming down the ramp, you're looking for your space, you're looking for your hole. Look at the spaces between the cars. Don't look at the cars. Look at the spaces between the cars and then aim for that space. If you aim for that space, it's more likely that the speed control, getting the vehicle up to speed, and the steering of the vehicle is going to take care of itself if you're looking at that hole and you're going to aim for that hole, and then you are going to get into that hole between the cars. If there is a semi-truck out on the roadway, plan to merge in behind it, not race it and get in front of it, all right? That will come with more experience. If traffic is bumper to bumper out on the highway, signal, match the speed on the roadway, and then left of center. So hug that center line, because what will happen is you'll freak out the people on the roadway, and eventually somebody will back off, create a hole for you to merge into out on the freeway. Remember, merging, people are nice, but they're not let more than one car merge nice. So if you're in a line of cars and they're merging out on bumper traffic, and one person lets a car merge in front of you, you got to merge in behind that vehicle, because the car behind that is the one person nice that is going to let you in. All right? Know that for the purposes of merging. I'm scared to drive on the interstate or freeway. How do I overcome my fear of driving on a highway or an interstate? Go with somebody that you trust who is a veteran, experienced driver. That will help you out on the roadway, and that will help you to relax and overcome your anxiety associated with driving on the highways at high speeds, because it is nerve-wracking when you first start. You're going fast. You got to get the vehicle up to speed. You got to do maximum acceleration. And this is something else in the parking lot that you can work on with your vehicle. You can do hard braking, aggressive braking. You can do aggressive acceleration. Unfortunately, what happens with too many students, instructors never do this with a new driver. They don't take them to a parking lot, put a couple of cones out, 200 feet apart, and say, okay, start at the one cone, and I want you to mash down on the gas pedal right to the floor and do hard acceleration. The other exercise you can do is get it up to speed, like 20, 30 kilometers an hour, 15, 20 miles an hour, and then hammer on the brake, put it right to the floor. Instructors don't do this with students, and then what happens is they get into an emergency situation, and they've never done this. They've never taken the brake pedal to the maximum application. They've never experienced hard acceleration, like getting out onto a highway or those types of things and pushing the gas pedal right to the floor, because they don't know what's going to happen, because it's a little bit weird when all of a sudden the engine's roaring and the transmission's in passing gear and it's rah, rah, and the student's like, what the heck is going on? Is this whole thing coming apart or what? For driving instructors who are watching this, if you're watching this now live or you're watching on the replay, do your students a favor and get them to do this hard aggressive braking. Get them to do this hard aggressive acceleration for a little bit in the parking lot, just so they know how the vehicle is going to respond when they push right down on the brake pedal, when they push right down on the gas pedal, okay? Help them out. Give them the best learning experience that you can in the short time that you have available with them. I know for driving instructors, and we're working with students, that time is so limited and there's so many skills to teach them that oftentimes, it's really hard to kind of get all that into them and find the time to do that. I know that there are constraints in what you're able to do with students when you're teaching them how to drive. For the purposes of a driver's test, you have to drive the posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less. Okay, so if the speed limit is 30 miles an hour and the traffic is only going 20, well, you can only do 20. That's what I mean by posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less. Can I go 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit? Ideally not. Okay, 5 miles is really pushing it. 10 kilometers an hour over the posted speed limit is really pushing it. Your speed control is tied into your observation. So you have a forward scanning pattern. You're looking far down the road. You're looking at your instrument panel, far down the road, side mirror, far down the road, other side mirror, far down the road, center mirror, and then you repeat that every 10 to 15 seconds. Therefore, every 10 to 15 seconds, when you're driving, you have your forward scanning pattern, you should be adjusting your speed because you're looking at your instrument panel every 10 to 15 seconds. So you should be able to control it. And most newer vehicles in the last 20 years all have really smooth throttle control. So there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to hold it on what the speed limit is. Now, the question, can I go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit? No. The question becomes, how much are you over the speed limit for how long? If you were consistently over the speed limit at 3 or 4 miles an hour for the entire test, you're probably not going to pass because you're not observing correctly. That's what it is telling the driving examiner. However, if you go 5 miles an hour over 10 seconds and then you correct it right away because of your scanning pattern, then that's not going to be an issue. That's not going to be an issue. How fast can I drive for the road test? As I said, posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, okay? So your speed control is tied into your scanning pattern. Every 10 to 15 seconds, you should be looking at your instrument panel and making adjustments on your speed control. Shoulder checking, shoulder checking, shoulder checking. I already went over this point with you have to shoulder check every time you move the vehicle. Left turns, right turns, always be scanning. Minimum 2 times for left turns and right turns. If you're sitting at the intersection for a period of time, you may have to shoulder check a 3rd time immediately before making your turn, just because traffic situations may have changed in the time that you've been waiting to make your turn or execute your maneuver at the intersection. Half a block before. The reason that you're doing that is to map and track other road users on the roadway. So you get a half a block from the intersection, you shoulder check and you're like, oh, there's a cyclist there in the bicycle lane. You take note of that, mental note of that. Now you map and track. You've mapped the road user. You know that the cyclist is there in your blind area. You're going to make a right turn at the intersection. You get up to the intersection. You have to slow down behind another vehicle before you're ready to make your right turn. Now you're thinking in your head, okay, I'm tracking the bicycle. I'm looking for the bicycle because I know the bicycle is going to come up and I'm not going to make my right turn in front of the bicycle. So you've half a block before shoulder check, you located the bicycle. Now you're mapping and tracking the bicycle. You get up to the intersection, you stay straight, you let the bicycle go through the intersection, and then you execute your right turn for purposes of safety, because vulnerable road users, 1 meter minimum, 3 feet. As speed increases, as Tim said a couple of weeks ago, a retired police officer, as speeds increase, you want more and more distance between your vehicle and vulnerable road users to reduce the chances of being involved in a crash on the roadways. Last point in terms of shoulder checking, and I think Corey's put up the video on shoulder checking. If he hasn't already, he will. The vehicle moves in the direction that I'm shoulder checking. So I shoulder check left, the vehicle goes left. You're shoulder checking too slow. You're going like this. And then the vehicle goes where you're looking. So quick 90-degree turn of the head, shoulder check, shoulder check. Okay, that's it. Shoulder check, shoulder check. You're just checking with your peripheral vision to see if there's light and movement in the blind areas around your car. The other thing about shoulder checking is that the blind areas around your car are not static. They don't stay the same shape all the time. They will change depending on the orientation of the vehicle. So if the vehicle is angled, blind area around your vehicle changes. So this is why you shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. ABS, always be scanning when you're driving. Left turn position, where do I stop at the intersection to make a left-hand turn? Front steer tires on the front crosswalk line. And then when the vehicle in front of your gap on the other side of the intersection hits the stop line on the other side, then you start to drive straight into the intersection. Do not sit in the intersection for the purposes of making a left-hand turn. I know that when I did it with Sam in the city of New York, you got to move into the intersection, but it is not your best defensive posturing. Stay out of the intersection for the purposes of your left-hand turns. Move to the right lane. After you make a left-hand turn on a multi-lane road and you're in the left lane, you have to automatically move back to the right-hand lane. You're the slowest vehicle on the roadway. You need to drive in the right lane. Driving examiners will not tell you this, but they will assign demerits if you don't move back over to the right. Now you can stay in the left lane if the examiner says to you, okay, in 2 blocks, I want you to turn left at the next intersection. Then yes, you can stay in the left-hand lane. But you need to move back over to that right-hand lane for passing your driver's test and best defensive posturing. Backing. Can I use a backup camera for the purposes of backing up on my driver's test? Yes, you can. You just can't use it as your main line of sight. You need to look out through the back window. All right, so put your hand over the passenger seat and then turn your hips and look out through the back window for the duration of backing up on your driver's test. Yes, you have to look through the back window. And what is a 360-degree scan? 360-degree scan is looking completely around the vehicle before you start reversing to have situational awareness of other road users, and you're mapping and tracking other road users as you're reversing. And if you're reversing in a straight line and it's more than a vehicle length, I would suggest that you pause, do another 360-degree scan to figure out where other road users are and to keep yourself safe when you're reversing. The number one reason for backing crashes in parking lots and after people get their license is because they start moving the vehicle before they look. In other words, they don't look, they just start moving the vehicle, and then they get into trouble when they're reversing after they get their license. Signal on a 3-point turn. Yes, you have to signal on a 3-point turn. And Corey will put up that video for you on 3-point turns. And I got lots of people that come back to me, smart drivers, that say, you don't have to signal when you're backing up. That's just dumb. Well, it may be dumb, but you want to get the fewest number of demerit points on your driver's test. And sometimes you want those little brownie points, right? The brownie points are the points that you're not going to get, but the driving examiner is going to go, that was really cool. And then if you make a little mistake, the driving examiner is going to go, oh, well, they did really well on the 3-point turn and they signaled for the whole thing. So therefore, I'm not going to mark them on this because they were so good on that. This is the way that the world works. Smart driver is going to signal when they're reversing and when they're turning for the purposes of 3-point turns and every other time that you change directions of the vehicle, both going forward and reversing. Parking. Will I fail if I touch the curb when I parallel park? No, you will not fail if you touch the curb and then readjust. You will fail if you bang the curb or push the back tire up over the curb, or you knock the examiner out of his or her seat. However, unfortunately, most new drivers do not have the sensitivity to know the difference between touching the curb with the tire and backing up over the curb with the rear tire. And too many students will come back to me and say, oh, if you touch the curb, that's an automatic fail on the driver's test. What happens with the students is that they don't know the difference, and unfortunately, in many instances, they push the back tire up over the curb. Do I have to use the parking brake? Yes. Every time you park the vehicle, use the parking brake. Even if you have an electric brake, use the parking brake for the purposes of parking. That way, even after you get your license, get in the habit of using the parking brake. Even if you have an automatic transmission, that way the vehicle will be there when you get back. As well, in terms of your vehicle, it's easier on your vehicle because you want the brakes to hold the vehicle in place, not the transmission. How many pull-ups can I do on a parallel park? You get 1 free pull-up. After the 1 free pull-up, then they start assigning demerits for the purposes of your parallel parking for the purposes of your driver's test. Can I adjust the mirrors for the purposes of parallel parking? No, you can't. Okay, driving examiners are simply not going to wait for you to do that for the purposes of your driver's test, because it's that 30 seconds, okay? You do it, 30 seconds, the next student does it, 30 seconds, next person does it, next thing you know, they're 15 minutes late for their coffee break in the afternoon. So they're not going to wait for you to adjust the mirrors. Now, for those of you who have high-tech vehicles, some of them will automatically readjust the mirrors when you put the transmission into reverse. But if you can figure out all that high-tech technology in your vehicle and you can do that, great. Go for it. All right, good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Evan, especially on downhill, let faster vehicles pass you. For trucks, they are heavy and their brakes may fail, so give them extra space. Yes, indeed. Give all vehicles on the roadway extra space. Have that 2 to 3 second following distance. Playing that cerebral Tetris in your head as you're moving along in traffic and trying to maximize the space around your vehicle. And that's definitely what we're talking about in terms of passing your driving test and being successful on passing your driving test, is doing that cerebral Tetris in your head and maintaining that 2 to 3 second following distance, and not allowing other traffic, other road users to box you in so that you don't have a way out in the event of an emergency. Because there are two ways out of an emergency situation when you're driving. One is to brake and slow and stop the vehicle. The other way is to drive out of the emergency situation, but you need somewhere to drive your vehicle, right? You need space in which to drive it. Driving out of an emergency situation is much, much faster than trying to brake, because oftentimes too many people, most people on the roadways are following too close and they're not going to get their vehicle stopped. So make sure that you have enough space to drive out. Reader, good evening. Living in New York City area, especially Brooklyn, where there are bike and moped drivers with lanes, yet some of them bikes and mopeds do not respect the drivers. What should a new driver do? Reader, shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. Okay, always be scanning and shoulder checking and mapping and tracking, figuring out where these bicycles are and the moped drivers, so that you do not cut them off, run into them, and keep yourself safe on the roadways. This is all what we're talking about in terms of situational awareness, locating other road users, mapping and tracking, and figuring out where they're going on the roadway to keep yourself safe, especially in busy places like New York. And definitely have the look at the videos with Sam. We did some defensive driving there in the Bronx, and that'll definitely help you out, my friend, as well. So we're talking about frequently asked questions for passing your driving test. 2 ways to fail a driving test. Too many demerit points. You'll get 5 to 10 points for minor errors, 10 to 20 points for major errors. Most driving tests, you're allowed 35 points. If you get more than 35 points, you're not going to be successful on your driving test. There are automatic fails on a driver's test, but most people do not fail outright on a driver's test. That's unlikely. The most common reason that people fail outright is failing to come to a stop immediately for an emergency vehicle, or number 2 is driving into an intersection that they can't clear and then the traffic light goes red. That's the other reason that you could fail automatically on a driver's test. Speeding in a school zone, school is in session. That's the other reason that you will fail automatically on a driver's test. So know that. Corey's put up those videos, so scroll back through the comments there. Top 10 mistakes on a driver's test, top automatic fails on a driver's test. Have a look at that information and be successful in passing first time. If you have any questions, leave a comment down in the comment section. Always happy to help. Always try and get through the comments every day and answer questions to help you be successful and be a safer, smarter driver. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. All the best. Bye now.